Hey guys, today I'll be sharing my long-term impressions of the OnePlus 8T. Although it is quite similar to the already existing OnePlus 8, it does bring some prominent changes. However, I can't help but wonder if these were the upgrades most of us were actually looking for. From the get-go, we can see that the company has struggled to adequately differentiate the three devices under the 8 series. And on the OnePlus 8, it is clear that OnePlus is playing the number game. 65-watt fast charging, 120Hz refresh rate, quad camera setup that does not include a telephoto lens, and more. While I'm not complaining about the upgrades themselves, the point I'm trying to make here is that it seems almost lazy of OnePlus to throw in big numbers while continually failing to bring about significant changes in the one aspect that it has always lagged behind in, the cameras. And to my dismay, the 8T's design feels like a downgrade as well. If you remember, the OnePlus 8 had these subtle curves on the screen which was just about ideal and nothing as drastic as the OnePlus 8 Pro. Because of this, the OnePlus 8 was perfectly immune to accidental touches, at least throughout my usage. But love it or hate it, the OnePlus 8T fully dismisses the curve. Hence, the phone feels a bit larger than the OnePlus 8. Also, because of the thicker side curves, one will notice how it seems so much thicker in the hands, even though the OnePlus 8T is less than a millimeter thick and weighs just 8 grams more than its predecessor. So yeah, in terms of tactile feel, the OnePlus 8 is much better than the OnePlus 8T, and I believe the flat display choice could have been implemented much better. But overall, it's still a premium looking device and well-built phone, and I even like the camera placement better than its predecessor. If only OnePlus 8T had the same form factor as that of the OnePlus 8. Moving on, OnePlus also never misses to include the signature alert slider in its smartphones. If you ask me, this feature does not get as much credit as it should. I can't speak for you, but to me, it's incredibly useful. Also, after seeing Samsung Galaxy S20 FE with multiple color options, I desperately hope that the future OnePlus devices come up with a few refreshing color options. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, the refresh rate has gotten a bump from 90 to 120Hz, while this fluid AMOLED panel remains the same at 6.55 inches. During my initial impression, I thought this was not that big of a deal, but after using this phone for some time now, I've kind of changed my opinion about that. Not only does it offer a smoother visual experience, the 240Hz touch response rate is quite up to the mark. Again, it's not the most stunning display you'll ever lay your eyes on, but for what it's worth, it's remarkable. The only problem I have with OnePlus 8T's display is the minimum brightness is not low enough as the ones on iPhone or a Samsung device. Although the company had proudly highlighted the phone's 8192 level automatic brightness adjustment, the 8T does not ship with a DC dimming feature. Maybe OnePlus can push an upgrade in the future, but for now I'm gonna have to minimize my habit of using my phone at night under the blanket. Okay, personal issues aside, in terms of outdoor brightness, this phone is a champ. Even in the sunniest of environments, I've had no issues reading blogs or using Twitter, so that's nice. Watching videos has also been a delight on the 8T. Not just that there is the support for Wideband L1 and HDR10+ content playback, but the speakers are decent too. These are not the best set of speakers on a smartphone, but they do a good job nonetheless. The audio is crisp and loud with balanced mids and highs, and the bass is acceptable too. Alright, before moving forward, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Pubg Mobile. Pubg has recently introduced the Pubg lightweight installation function with the prime target of reducing its file size. Now the game can be downloaded at an expense of 610 MB only. This is significant as updates usually hit the 1 GB mark, making the game bulkier every time. This feature is especially the most useful for people who don't have access to high-end devices but still want to have a great Pubg gaming experience. This feature has been made available through the recent 1.1 update, and all you need to do is go to the game settings, press on the download tab and select your desired resource pack. After downloading, players will also be able to customize or remove resource packs. Additionally, players can also receive rewards for downloading a specific resource pack, and along with a significant reduction in the file size, players can also witness optimized performance with a 10% lag reduction. For further information on this, feel free to check the link given in the description. Okay, now let's talk performance, and you know that OnePlus has historically delivered great performing phones, and the OnePlus 8T is not an exception either. While I was expecting the Snapdragon 865 Plus in here, it was quite strange of the company to go with the regular 865. But since the S20 FE ships with the much despised Exynos 990 in OnePlus's prime markets like India, the 8T has made matters much easier as it is easily the best performing Android phone in its price range right now. That, topped with OnePlus's amazing software experience, is like getting the best of both worlds. But I do have to warn you that this new version of Oxygen OS is quite a deviation from the previous near-stock Android experience that many of us loved. It still retains a lot of customization options, and in fact this one's more like Samsung's One UI, thanks to the headings in stock OnePlus apps being written in big bold letters, while everything else is moved down so that one can reach stuff easily. Now, this one's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is a healthy upgrade considering how difficult it is to use the phone single-handedly while they're growing bigger and bigger, and it's not bad to be inspired by a rival's useful features either. On the other hand, OG OnePlus fans can most certainly translate this transition as utter betrayal and might even argue that the company is slowly losing its originality. Having said that, one of the most appreciable changes in this version of Oxygen OS has to be the option to toggle dark mode from the system shortcuts, and you can even schedule it as per your preference now, which is much easier than before. In terms of gaming, as you could imagine, the OnePlus 8T is a beast. By the way, the company has recently rolled out an update providing a 90 FPS gaming option in Pubg Mobile, which was initially missing on the phone. Because of this, the OnePlus 8T offers some of the best Pubg Mobile gameplay experiences. Likewise, other demanding or lightweight games run smoothly as well without a hint of lag. Now let's get to the cameras, and disclaimer, they're not the best thing about this phone. First off, OnePlus has decided to go with the same old Sony IMX586 sensor that they used on the OnePlus 8 and the 7T before that. And although its camera optimization has improved over the years, Samsung with its flagship level optimization on the S20 FE takes the spotlight from the 8T. We have already posted an in-depth camera comparison between these two phones, which you can check out from the link somewhere here. So I'm going to keep things really simple in this video. Talking about the 8T alone, you will notice in both the primary and ultra-wide-angle images that the pictures tend to have an unnecessary level of contrast. The primary images do look pretty good, but then again, the ones from the S20 FE has better shadow details and color reproduction. And in terms of the ultra-wide-angle images, S20 FEs evidently stand out as well with better dynamic range, colors and field of view. Not to mention that the S20 FE has a more versatile camera setup including a telephoto lens while disregarding the inferior depth and macro sensor. With this, the S20 FE can zoom up to 3 times optically while the OnePlus 8T is only capable of zooming digitally. And I'm sure you can figure out how this one's gonna go. Having said that, it's not all bad with the OnePlus 8T cameras. For instance, I think it has better portrait capabilities than the S20 FE in terms of edge detection and subject focus. Now moving on to the nighttime images, well, the OnePlus 8T has a tendency to overprocess and in many instances oversaturates the pictures for some reason. So even though the details and everything is good, the unnatural colors might seem excessive, especially when compared to the S20 FE. Likewise, the 8T also has a macro sensor. Here are some samples that I took from it, and as you can see, they're not that bad. It's only that the macro sensor here has fixed focus, so getting a perfectly sharp image is kind of tricky. Also, the videos from the selfie camera on the OnePlus 8T is limited to 1080p 30 fps. And even at that very resolution, the camera finds it hard to manage exposure properly. So it's not the best vlogging choices out there. The rear cameras can shoot good enough videos at 4K 60 fps, but the videos tend to lose some details and it cannot handle abrupt movements like running either, as it messes with the exposure. Okay, selfies from the OnePlus 8T are not that great too. You can notice the red tint in the photos making them look really weird. The S20 FE on the other hand is able to maintain a subtle and almost natural undertone, which makes it a better selfie camera. Now let's talk about how the battery endurance has been so far, and to be honest, I am really satisfied with its backup. It has given me a full day of battery life with some juice to spare at the end of the day on a normal day's use. That's particularly impressive because I use this phone with 120Hz refresh rate turned on all the time. Charging this device is really fast as well with OnePlus's proprietary Warp Charge 65, which takes the device from 0 to 100% in about 40 minutes. And yes, I've never faced any heating issues while charging, but it does get slightly warm when I'm using it while charging the phone. All in all, like with all the OnePlus phones that I've used previously, this one too has been great. It is possibly the best in its price range, especially here in South Asia where we get the Exynos variant of the S20 FE and iPhones are ridiculously overpriced. But the thing is, value flagship market is getting quite competitive these days, so the question needs to be asked, is it enough or should OnePlus be doing more? With the likes of Samsung, Xiaomi, and even Asus providing similar specs, it's getting more and more difficult for the company to solely survive on its mantra of speed. And people expect incredible camera performance on devices of this price range. And if OnePlus cannot deliver on that crucial aspect, a buyer's purchasing decision can easily shift elsewhere. So that is something OnePlus needs to actively work against in the future. So that was all for my long-term impressions on the OnePlus 8T. Which one would be your ideal Android device, the OnePlus 8T or the Galaxy S20 FE? Do let us know in the comments. Till then, I'm Pratima Adhikari and I'll see you in the next one.